Good evening, everybody. Michael D. sitting behind the mic again. Well, today's topic is, who's your favorite stand-up comic? I have my sidekick, Ron, here with me again. Hey, Ed. Ron, welcome back.
Thank you.
Ron, so tell us, who is your favorite stand-up comic?
Well, I don't want to divulge that just yet. I'd rather just go ahead and we'll talk about all the comics, and I'll let you know who my favorite is at the end of it. How's that?
That sounds good to me.
All right. So why don't we start with people like, George Burns, Bob Newhart, people like that. I know Bob Newhart's. I have a list of them here, but the live list is Bob Newhart. Everybody else is gone, unfortunately, but we do remember them. You know that Bob Newhart and Don Rickles were very good friends, don't you?
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, Don Rickles introduced Bob Newhart to the woman he was going to be marrying, the woman that Bob Newhart married, Ginny Newhart. But anyway, I'll tell you a little something about Don Rickles. He was insulting, but he was very funny. And there was this quick story where he was out on a dinner date and he happened to notice Frank Sinatra in the same dining room he was in. And he had a dinner date there with him. This, of course, was before Rickles was married. So he walked over to Frank Sinatra and he said to him, "Frank, do me a favor. I want to impress the girl I'm with here. Just walk over to the table and say hello, okay?" And Frank said, "Okay." So he goes and sits down with the woman, and, after a few minutes, Frank Sinatra shows up at the table and says, "How you doing, Don?" And Don Rickles says, "Frank, didn't I tell you whenever I'm out on a date not to bother me?" You can imagine how Sinatra felt. Took the joke well. But anyway, that was just something funny about Don Rickles. He just loved practical jokes, and he liked, I remember him on all those roasts and everything like that.
Oh, yeah.
Who can you remember that you enjoyed a lot?
Foster Brooks. He was a great comedian.
Pretended to be drunk all the time, right?
Oh yeah, for sure.
What would he bet on, Foster Brooks?
He was betting on the ponies mostly.
Well, I had mentioned the roast, that he was on. He used to do really good roasts, celebrity roasts.
Yes.
And he was very funny. Can't remember exactly things he said and did, but he was just a panic. Really funny.
Oh, yeah, for sure he was. Yes, you're correct about that.
Yep. Now, I'll mix it up a little bit. We haven't covered any comedians yet, but I appreciated Joan Rivers. I used to like the way she would say, "Oh, grow up," and stuff like that. And there's another comedian, that would be Carol Burnett. I thought she was very funny, very good. And then there was Lucille Ball, but I'll get back to the men in a minute. Do you have any comments on those women comics?
Absolutely not. Nothing about it. No comment about it.
Okay. I think you're leaning toward the men, right?
But a couple.
Comedy goes. What did kings use for comedy to lighten their lives?
Jesters.
Jesters, right. And they were important because the kings had a lot of duties and a lot of responsibilities, and they were sometimes overwhelmed, and the jesters did help. Some people called them fools and stuff like that, but they were very funny, and they did lighten the king's heart. In fact, I don't know whether you know this or not, but in Old Testament scripture, there's a thing that says, "Merry heart makes good medicine."
Huh.
In other words, it's good for you to laugh once in a while. If you have a life that doesn't have much laughter in it, you haven't got much of a life at all. I think that's why tonight we're covering these comedians, right?
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Now, I myself met Robin Williams, and I gotta tell you, he's down to earth about a lot of stuff. While he's off the stage and everything, he's totally unbelievable.
Yeah, you told me once that he gave you some good advice because you were trying stand-up comic yourself. Stand-up comedy, right?
Oh, yeah. I was trying it once, and I was not making a good impression on the crowd. And he noticed what I was doing, and I was reading it from a script. So when I went back into my room to change, there was a knock on the door. Of course, my back was to the door. I told the person to come in. And I heard his voice, and might I give you a few tips? And I said, no, go ahead. Go ahead, no, that voice. I turned around and I said, oh, shit. It's Robin Williams. He goes, yes, last time I checked, I was. He says, but your problem is you're reading it from a script. You have to do it off the top of your head. Make fun of life and everything in it. You know?
Yeah. Yes.
So my friend who owned the comedy club, he let me try it the following night. Almost the same exact people were there, may I say. And I did pretty well, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I did really good my third and fourth night. I was correcting the mistakes I hit the second night. Robin Williams, he had stayed there for like about 5 days. And all 5 days he gave me pointers on what to do, what not to do. So it was kind of really nice. You know?
Well, he really helped you. Very good.
Oh, yeah. He never thought he was above anybody else. It was really wild. He was just down to earth about everything.
Right. How about George Burns and Gracie Allen? Remember any of those?
I remember them, yeah. Let me say that. I remember them, but Jesus. Well, that's decades ago.
Fun. George Burns was very funny in his own way. It's sad. George Burns said he's going to live to be 100, and he's going to be the oldest comedian ever on stage at 100 years old. Well, he should have set his sights to 102, Mike, because he made it to 100, but by the time he was 98, he was in no shape to be on stage.
Well, that's the God's honest truth. Who wants to be at that age? I mean, what did you do?
Yeah. I'm sure Joe, old Joe.
Hey, who the hell wants to be on stage at 98 years old? George Burns spent most of his life on a stage.
Actually, George Burns really wanted to be on stage at 100 years old, but he couldn't make it. Incapacitated by then, and he did die at 100.
True.
If he could live to 102, he could have been on stage, you know.
And he smoked cigars all of his life.
What's that?
And he smoked cigars all of his life.
Yes, he did. He didn't kill him either, did it? Didn't seem to. Could have lived longer. Not really. Reminds me of Bob Hope, too. He lived to be 100. Well, that was good.
Yeah, right.
I'm sure they really think Bob Hope's as a favorite of theirs. There's also Johnny Carson. There's George Carlin. There's Goldie Hawn, and let's see, Myron Cohen. Remember he used to talk about me and everything like that, and the people that lived in Miami, especially Jewish people. He was a funny guy. But the nice thing about it is you can catch all these people still on YouTube to this day.
This is true. You can.
All right?
Very true. Yeah.
Probably even Shecky Green, a lot of people forget about. Catch him.
I myself, I like Lisa Lampanelli.
Yeah.
I mean, she doesn't cut.
When you think about it.
She don't cut anything. She right to the chase, man.
Mm-hmm. When you think about it,
Yes.
there's funny things. There were funny things done by people that weren't stand-up comics exactly, but like Alan Funt. And Alan Funt had a good sense of humor with candid camera, and it was funny for its time. And you can see some of camera's things, I think, on YouTube. But there's a newer one. They do these hidden camera things now in Canada, and it's called Just for Laughs Gags. And that's 10 times funnier than candid camera ever was. I just laugh out loud at a lot of their shenanigans. They're really funny. And they go to a lot of expense to pull these jokes off, too. Up there in Canada.
Yeah,
I don't know anything.
I wouldn't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't
But
know.
I don't know people that put on that. It's so funny. Just Laughs Gags is also on YouTube. You can see hundreds of them.
Oh.
There's, then there was Jackie Mason.
These are kind of horseshit for you.
And, let me see. One of the funniest things I ever heard Jackie Mason say was this. He said, the Jews think they're the only ones that were ever persecuted. He says, when the Irish first came over here to this country, he said, they were persecuted. He said, of course, they were too drunk to notice. And that was a funny joke. That's one of the few that I could remember from Jackie Mason, but he was a very funny man. I don't know whatever happened to him. He just seemed to disappear. I didn't even check to see if he's still alive today. I doubt that he would be, but that's easy to find out on the internet, right?
Yeah, I think so. I would think so, huh?
I did like Lucille Ball and Dennis Hernandez. They started in sitcoms on TV, and boy, they were funny. They were great people.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't care for Roseanne Barr, but I thought she was sarcastically funny.
Oh, yeah, she's funny. Howard, yeah.
So, what do you remember about Richard Proctor? I think that's one of your favorites, Nick. Not your favorite.
He was one of my favorites, not the favorite, but I will tell you, he didn't cut any slack. He just let it rip. That's what I liked about him.
Right.
So, yeah.
You mentioned the team of Abbott and Costello, but you liked Abbott more, didn't you?
Well, the only bit I really liked was Who's On First.
Okay, Who's On First? So that was the guy's name was who?
I couldn't even begin to follow that one.
Something on second.
But they were good.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. But I remember hearing it, but it was clever.
Yeah, both of them.
How about Dean Martin and Jerry Lewis together? Did you like them?
Well, I met Dean Martin once, and Jerry Lewis I met also.
Mm-hmm.
I'd rather reserve my comment for that.
Okay. Yeah, sometimes they don't like autograph hounds. That's probably something we had a problem with.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's cool. No sweat off my nose.
Your favorite already, but out of all that we've mentioned so far, I think my favorite was Rodney Dangerfield. I really like Rodney Dangerfield a lot. He was so quick with all the jokes he told. He just rattled them off. There's something on YouTube that says, how does it go? Rodney Dangerfield cracks up Johnny Carson. Like Johnny Carson just could hardly take it. It was just one joke after another, and Johnny Carson was laughing himself on his desk. It was just so funny. I think there's a couple of them where he was on the Tonight Show.